Wanna be starting something, got to be starting something. Wanna be starting something, got to be starting something. Hard to get over, too low to get under, stuck in the middle. All right. Happy Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Sab's podcast. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. If you're new, I do want to let you know that Sab's podcast is also on Rumble and Twitter as well. Of course, a lot of you are here on YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what to tell you. It seems as though we can't have one weekend without something crazy happening. So we've had one of those weekends again. One of those weekends yet again. And we have so much to get into. I do have Michael Jackson songs in my head. They've been there for the past couple of days. I did go see the movie. I am going to do a review about that and tell you guys my honest opinion about what I think about it. So we'll get into that and many, many other things. Tonight's theme is We Know Better. We know so much better. I do want to start out by giving people couple of shout outs here in the chat, ladies and gents, because you choose to spend your Sunday with me instead of doing whatever you could do on a Sunday. Let's give a shout out to Herte says wild times. Yes, it is. Greetings. Clam says, what's going on? We're going to tell you, Clam. Greetings, FAFO. Was the White House dinner alleged shooting also fake? I feel like it was. Is the suspect also a patsy? We're going to get into all of that. Now, if you're just joining, I do want to let you guys know I covered that story. I posted a video about the White House shooting earlier today, but more information has been released since then. I got more information within the past couple of hours about the shooter. So there's more that I'm going to get into. So I had to break this up into two segments because that one video alone was just like 50 minutes long, which is insane. So that's how I knew. I was like, I'm not going to be able to cover this whole thing during the live stream tonight. So I did a separate video about that was published earlier. And then we're going to get into more about this shooter. So much is coming out, ladies and gents. So much. Greetings, Cloudness says, happy Sunday fun day. Salute to Sabby Sabs and everyone in the chat. Well, it's time to get rid of these bans in the CBC, the Congressional Black Caucus, and their worthless asses. B1. Greetings, Carl said, glad to see Sabby is covering Mali. Oh, yes. Things went down in Mali. We got to get into that. Greetings, Blockbuster says, hi. Shout out to Nicole. I came through to hit the like in case I can't watch live due to strong storms coming from the KCMO this afternoon. Good work, Sabby Sabs. Thank you. Shout out to Fire says, take good care, Nicole. What's going on? Logically Dashing said, I'd like to ask more people to call out Sabby when she is frivolously using AI images and videos in her videos, streams, and social media posts. Okay, that's good to know. Greetings, Miguel says, peace. Shout out to Lawrence. Doobie do or not doobie? That is the question. That is the question. Shout out to Nika says, greetings, chat. Greetings, Mark says, I stand with Candace Owens. God bless her family. Greetings, Lorez says, hi, Sabby, Eric, Corey, and RB and fam. Watched a little of Hardlands Media after the shooting. Seems like another false flag. Guys, I'm telling you, all the pieces have come together for this one. And I told you, in the video I posted earlier, I said, I'm not going to make the same mistakes that I made with the Butler, Pennsylvania shooting. And so things I noticed early on this time around, I made sure to call those out. But we have more to dive into. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. All right, ladies and gents, again, tonight's theme is We Know Better. I want to go ahead and start out by giving a shout out to Sabby patrons. Thank you guys so much for your support. Really do appreciate you, fam. If you are interested in being a Sabby patron, I have 5 categories. We have Ultimate, Sabinators, Sabsters. Don't forget about those guys. Don't forget about Sabbies. That seems to be the most popular group around here. And last but not least, we also have dun 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 dun. We have members. We have members. Shout out to all of them. All of their names are listed here, and you can also see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen there on the ticker. Thank you guys so much. Really do appreciate you. So, what are we talking about tonight, ladies and gents? Again, I'm trying my best not to laugh too much. It's Sunday. We get a little crazy here, but it's just, I said it earlier, we deserve better psyops. That is all I'm saying. They're so obvious. Let's go ahead and show that thumbnail, ladies and gents, so you can see what we are getting into. What is going on tonight? We are discussing, Donald Trump has been coming after people who supported him, like Candace Owens and, of course, Tucker Carlson and all of them. But I think he has reached a new low with this one. Donald Trump attacks Candace Owens in a way that I predicted would eventually happen. And we're going to get into all of that. A lot of people are really upset with Donald Trump because of the attack that he did, which many people are pointing out. This is not going to help the Republican Party. This is only going to hurt the Republican Party. And yeah, I mean, it's so obvious here. Someone needs to take Donald Trump's phone or whatever away from him. But we're going to get into all of that. A lot of people are calling this one out. We're also going to discuss, I have more information about that shooter, Cole Allen, the suspected shooter, I should say. He was the one that was apprehended. They are, basically blaming the White House Correspondents' Dinner shooting on him. And I have more information about him that I need to give you. Something ain't right. Something is not right in the water. And we're going to show you tonight. We're also going to discuss, yes, I told you I was going to go see the Michael movie. I did go see it. I'm going to give you my honest review about it, ladies and gents. And I'm also going to explain to you the reason why I believe there is such a huge disconnect between the movie critic review and the audience member review. So I wanted to wait till I actually saw it to break that down for you. But I'm not going to do like spoilers or anything like that. We're also going to discuss all eyes on Mali, all eyes on the AES in Africa, which is Mali, Burkina Faso, and of course, Niger, because things popped off in Mali this weekend. And I believe the West is behind it. And I'm going to get into all of that. And last but not least, it seems to be that an Italian investigative journalist has outed Melania Trump more ways than one about her involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. People are not letting this go. And so there's more information that has come out about her, and it is not good for Melania, and it is not good for Donald Trump. So we're going to get into all of that tonight, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't had a chance to do so, please do me a solid and smash that like button. And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share, just like a Care Bear. Again, the theme tonight is We Know Better, and I hope you do. I hope you do. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our first story, ladies and gents. We have been talking so much about the Middle East, and now we have to turn our attention to Africa. In particular, we have to look at the AES, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. Over the weekend, Mali was attacked, and it's not good. They are saying that terrorist groups came into Mali and have started to, in so many ways, take over. They have already killed one leader. Let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to bring in this clip here from Al Jazeera. Like I said, guys, all hell broke loose in Mali over the weekend.
For the latest on the situation in Mali, what more are you hearing, Nick, about the scale and coordination of these attacks across Bamako and other regions?
Well, Foley, to put it in short, the scale and the coordination is unprecedented. Now, Mali has gone through conflicts and war for the last decade, but the fact that you have attacks taking place as we speak in the heart of the capital, by the airport in Kati, which is where the president of transition, Assimi Goïta, and the military headquarters is located, happening as we speak, as well as in Gao in the north, in Kidal, in Sévaré. These are key locations throughout the country. It shows a level of sophistication, planning, and clear targeting the military. I mean, according to military sources that we spoke to, the fighters that are involved in this coordinated attack are targeting military armed compounds throughout the region. And so with the population that we spoke to in Bamako, I spoke to someone earlier on who's in downtown Bamako. He says in certain area there's an eerie calm. People are trying to go out on the streets, but there's also a message being put out on social media and on national television from the president of transition, or the government of Mali, telling the population that there is ongoing operations, that there are attacks by armed groups, not naming them by name, but certainly there's a level of unprecedented panic in the ranks of the military, according to some of the sources that we spoke to. We also spoke.
Pause for just a second. What I want you to pay attention to is the fact that he said it seems to be that these attacks were planned and that they were coordinated. Look, if I were to make a guess, I would imagine that the West is behind these armed groups that entered Mali and started these attacks. We have to remember that France was very much involved in the AES countries here, Burkina Faso, Mali, and of course, Niger. For the longest time, France has been stealing resources from those countries. And you had people living in those countries that weren't even getting to use as much of their own resources because France was just basically taking them. And these countries, we'll get into it a little bit later, but these countries decided to rise up and join a coalition together. And they said that they wanted the West out of their business. They did not want France stealing their resources. They didn't want them there telling them what to do. And so they have this coalition called the AES. So when I heard about these attacks that were happening in Mali, it was no doubt in my mind that the West is behind this in some way, shape, or form. And the idea is that they will overthrow the leadership there and they will implement a Western puppet in Mali. They want to do this in Burkina Faso too. So this is not just, it's going to spread. They want to do this in Burkina Faso. They also want to do this in Niger. And they basically want these countries under the control of the West once again. And so sometimes what the West will do, whether it's the CIA, whether it's these color revolutions, they'll send weapons to other people, other groups that may be somewhat near that area or sometimes live in that actual area, and they will pay them to rise up and overthrow their own government so that the West can come in and just kind of take over and do what they want to do. Now, you may wonder, well, why would people choose to do that? Money. Money. That's what it all comes down to. So when I first heard about the story, this attack over the weekend, I was like, here's the West again. France is not happy about the fact that they can't, continue to take these resources the way that they have been before. France is very much pro-imperialism, and they didn't like the fact that these countries said, get out and let us govern ourselves. We don't want anything to do with you. Another thing that these countries want to do, and everyone needs to pay attention to this, is that similar to what Gaddafi was wanting as well, they kind of want to, trade and work with their own currency. They want the West completely out, and they have every right to do that. So this isn't just about a group of armed so-called terrorists or whatever that came in and just decided to fight people. We always have to look at the backstory here, ladies and gents.
Spoke to someone inside the presidency. He says that the situation is under control, but according to eyewitnesses, there are drones hovering the headquarters of the military in Kati. And so there is coordinated efforts from the military to repel this coordinated attack from armed groups. But certainly, this is unprecedented in Mali, at least for the last decade.
Right.
Holly?
So what do these attacks say about the ongoing security challenge in Mali and the wider Sahel region?
Yes, well, you have to take into account that there's been one armed group specifically, Jamaat Nusrat al-Islam wal-Muslimin, a small armed group that started off attacks in the center of the country, and now that is coordinating attack not just in Mali but throughout West Africa, even targeting coastal cities. And so they have been gaining ground from trying to control territories or launching attacks against the Malian military or local militaries in the region to trying to govern certain area. And one example I can give you of this, Foley, is that a few months ago, we were in Mali when this particular armed group operated a blockade around the capital, Bamako, essentially choking the population from access to fuel. In the end, the government of Bamako and the armed groups were able to play out some sort of settlement where there's fuel that were able to come in. But they control large swath of land in Mali. There's also the element that's very important to remember is the conflict that's taking place outside of Mali, the conflict that's taking place in Europe between Russia and Ukraine. Why is that relevant? Because Mali is reliant on Russian mercenaries from the former Wagner Group or the Africa Corps that it heavily relies on for maintaining its security. Now, we know from eyewitnesses that they're involved in fighting, as we speak, in Bamako, around the airport where they have one of their headquarters. But because there's been so much pressure on the war, on the Russia-Ukraine front, some of these Russian mercenaries are being pulled out from the Mali security situation to attend to the front in Europe. And that is having an effect on the security situation in Mali. But it is certainly an ongoing situation, and we'll be monitoring as the day goes along.
Yeah, and
so these countries have chosen to do not just, just working together with, but also have some type of trade as well with Russia, because Russia, they see Russia as a country that doesn't want to control them, that supports their sovereignty, that supports not having the West implemented in their lives and their economy. And Eric brought up a really good point here. Mali is the third largest gold producer in Africa. So you guys, again, it all goes back to the resources, right? Like there's a reason why France was there. There's a reason why Macron is still angry about this, because they don't have that colonial control that they once had. I want to show you another comparison here. Now, this is from One. And again, they're saying that these are Al-Qaeda linked groups. Listen to this.
At least 16 people, including civilians and soldiers, have been injured after multiple attacks were reported in Mali. Now, Malian government has said that armed groups launched what it called complex and coordinated assaults on Kati, Sevare, Gao, Kidal, and Bamako.
And remember, one of the things that gentleman said is that they were blocking the fuel. So they were trying to stop people in Mali from getting access to fuel as well.
The transitional government condemns these cowardly terrorist acts with the greatest energy and reassures the population that the ultimate sacrifice made by the worthy sons of the nation will not be in vain. All measures are underway to track down and bring to justice the perpetrators, accomplices and sponsors of these ignoble acts.
Localities in the north, including Mopti, Sebari and Kau. Attacks were also reported in the northern city of Kidal. Tuareg rebels backed by jihadist fighters say that they have seized the city and are now battling government forces.
So I wanted you to see some of the things that were happening there. And then I also want to show you this because this is the part that I think people really need to pay attention to. Let me go ahead and bring this in here. Al-Qaeda in Mali, again, and Taraj separatists of FLA have launched a nationwide offensive against Mali's junta and its Russian allies. They're reportedly successful, having entered the capital city. It looks like Mali is failing to jihadists.
Allahu Akbar.
See, this is important for people to understand because when they come into these countries like Mali, you know, they've been trying to kill Captain Ibrahim. They've tried to kill him in Burkina Faso multiple times. They have tried to assassinate this man multiple times. And I'm here to tell you, you know, I don't know what you have been told, but these countries want their own sovereignty. These countries do not want to be ruled by the West. They don't want the West stealing their resources, and rightfully so. And another thing that people need to think about when we talk about displacement and migration, when the West implements these coups to come into these countries, overthrow their leaders, destroy their properties, kill people, ultimately there's a despair. And usually when that happens, there is going to be a segment of the population that is going to be displaced. We already see that multiple times, 10 times over in the Middle East. Then they will start to migrate to other places. And then what ends up happening is then they'll go to other countries that will welcome them. And then you have people in those countries that's like, we don't want them here. So you see, there is a pattern to this. And you have to look at cause and effect. The West should leave these countries alone and let them do what they want to do. Now, here's something else I want to show you that happened. Militants have captured the governor's palace in Kidal, northeastern Mali, following the reported withdrawal earlier of government officials in the Malian army. So you see how they stormed the palace? Look. Yeah. See, they're paid to do this. That's why they do it. It's no different than when Donald Trump, you know, he said the quiet part out loud, talked about arming people to go into Iran's protests. That's what they do. They send weapons to other groups that are there to disrupt and cause chaos. And then they'll say, oh, look, their own people don't even want them in charge. And they've been doing this for years. And you really got to start listening to, you know, a lot of like geopolitical analysts that have been covering this kind of stuff on the ground. I know Wyatt Reed, for example, right now is in Iran. Ben Norton's really good on this issue. He's abroad as well. Like, that's why you have to listen to independent media. They've been lying about this kind of stuff to people for years, especially when you look at someone like Gaddafi. And it looks like one of their first steps has already been accomplished because they have already killed the defense minister in Mali. So here we go again with overthrowing these leaders.
All right, we have some breaking news coming in from Mali, where the country's defense minister, General Sadio Camara, has been confirmed dead after bomb blast at his house. Reports a car bomb was left outside his residence near the capital, Bamako. The attack took place on Saturday when rebel groups launched coordinated attacks across the African nation, including on the junta stronghold at Kati near the capital. Kamara and other junta leaders live in Kati. A relative, speaking on the condition of anonymity, said the minister and at least 3 members of his family were killed by the car bomb left by a group affiliated to Al-Qaeda. The blast, which was particularly powerful, completely destroyed the defense minister's residence. The attack was part of a simultaneous offensive by JNIM and ALF across several regions of the country.
So now he's gone. So we've seen this scene over and over again, right? It's just with different countries. So this is backed by the West. We have to come in and tell you guys these things. It's absolutely ridiculous that they don't let these countries have any type of freedom. George Galloway said it really well. France will never stop trying to get back to Africa. It's true. France, this is all Macron, guys. This is France. You see, all these countries, these so-called countries that we're allies with, they have something in common. They still support colonialism. And I wanted to show you this map so you can see the area we're talking about if you're not familiar with AES. So AES, this includes Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. As you notice, all 3 of them border each other. We're in this part of Africa. If you look at the upper left-hand corner here, this is the area of Africa that we're referring to. And these countries did something very bold. You see, they formed this alliance called the AES. I want to read this to you for those who are not familiar. The AES is a confederation between Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. It is located in the Sahel region of Africa. It originated as a mutual defense pact created in September 16th of 2023. This was following the 2023 Nigerian crisis, in which the West African political bloc, ECOWAS, threatened to intervene militarily following a successful coup in Niger earlier that year. All 3 member states are foreign members of ECOWAS and currently under the control of juntas following a string of successful coups. This includes the 2021 Melania coup, September 2022 of Burkina Faso coup, and of course, 2023 Niger coup. So this is the AES. And here's something I want to show you about them when you look at their initiatives. This is important. They have announced various measures towards stated goals of regional stability, economic independence, and self-reliance. These 2 here are the most important. Economic independence and self-reliance. And that is what the countries of the AES want. Independence. And if you look at what's happening in Burkina Faso, we've covered it before on the show. Captain Ibrahim, he's doing phenomenal things in Burkina Faso. Like, they're building bridges. They're trying to, revamp their infrastructure. It looks like they're building a lot of things there. And then another thing we got to get into is the banks, because, a lot of this goes back to money. Proposals have been made regarding a common central bank, jointly with the introduction of new currency to replace the CAF franc. So they want their own bank. The West hates this. The West does not want this to happen, especially if it's not a Rothschild bank, because we went over the list of countries that don't have the Rothschild banks. And if we go back to Gaddafi, remember that Gaddafi, he wanted these countries in Africa to form an alliance and to have their own currency and to not have to depend on the West. And that's why Obama and all the rest of them had to come in and they had to get rid of Gaddafi. So they made an excuse for it. And they told you that Gaddafi was killing his own people. You guys know in Libya, before Gaddafi was killed, people in Libya were highly educated. People were living pretty well in Libya. Once the US government came in and they killed Gaddafi, overthrew him, all of a sudden Libya had re-implemented a slave trade. And the state of people in Libya right now is terrible. That's why you don't support regime change. Both parties have done this. They both do it. Some people call it global power. I call it colonialism because that's what it is. And it doesn't matter if the face that is doing it is white or black. It doesn't matter. So I rock for the AES. I support what I think they need to be left alone. I think you guys, people got to wise up to these armed troops that are coming into these countries to just try to destroy them. And the narrative that is told to you by corporate media, especially Western corporate media, their goal is to convince you that these leaders are awful and horrible. And it's so hilarious because we have a horrible leader. Right here in the United States, we have a leader that is horrible. Well, the people, the women and the children in the country, what about the women and the children in this country? We live in a country where everybody doesn't even have health care, but they're worried about people in another country. Get out of here, man. It's always about resources. It's always about banks. It's always about the money. And always remember, all wars are banker wars. So we're going to keep our eye on what's happening in Mali because we call it now. First Mali, then they will try to do this to Burkina Faso and Niger next. To show you just how the French have they captured these countries in such a way. Look at the name of the countries. Niger, that's French. Down with colonialism and up with economic independence and sovereignty. Leave these people alone. And then what kills me is people will see these things happen and they're like, oh, well, we don't want them to come to this country. We don't want them coming anywhere. Don't come over here. When we're the ones destroying their countries. So people have to put this into perspective. A lot of these people were living just fine until the West came in. So, especially with this story, and I hope more people cover what's happening in Mali, we know better. We know better. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. All right. Thank you for the super chat, Stephen. Big love from England, Sabby. What is up? What is up? Greetings, Sean says, wake up, America. Epstein distraction. Greetings, Adele says, hi, Sabby, my love. Thank you. Thank you, Sparky. Love you, Sabby, love. Love you all too. You guys are very lovey today. Thank you, Sparky. Extreme Islamic terrorists didn't go into Mali and the other Sahel nations until the West sponsored, trained, and sent them there in an effort to preserve neocolonialism. Ding, ding, ding. Sparky knows what's up. Thank you, Jabram. Dock workers should globally refuse to move goods coming from America. If you stop America, you stop France. That's a good point. And thank you, Sparky. From what I understand, although the attack's been bad, Mali's army is trained and still aided by the Russians. So the tide is turning against the West's terrorist pawns. Yeah, we just got to keep an eye on it. Skylar says, even Africa isn't the original name of the continent. Europeans made that mess up. I know. You guys are so smart. You guys are so smart. You're in on your history. Hey. All right, ladies and gents, do me a solid if you haven't had a chance to do so and smash that like button. And we're going to get into the next story. We're making good time here. Good time. Melania. Things are not looking well for Melania Trump. It's just like a week or so ago when she made that weird speech that she didn't know Epstein and she didn't know Ghislaine Maxwell and they weren't friends and it's just random and weird. And I told you then, I think she was trying to get ahead of something. Lo and behold, come to find out, there is a woman by the name of Amanda Ungaro who was just recently deported at the request of her, I think he's her ex-husband now, Paolo Zampoli, who works for the Trump administration, and he wanted her to be deported. When he did that, she was sent to Brazil away from her child. So her child is apparently still in the US and she was sent to Brazil. After Melania had that press conference, Amanda Ungaro started tweeting and she was saying things like, I will reveal about you, Melania, and your husband. She has since deleted most of those tweets. So that makes me believe that they got to Amanda. But that speech was Melania trying to get out in front of something. Well, apparently, and you're not going to believe this, an investigative journalist from Italy has just leaked something pretty damning about Melania in all of this. The Italians are at it, folks. Here come the Italians. Italian investigative, and this is the company here. It's called Report. They just unleashed a political earthquake. So let's get into this video, and I'm going to read it for you bit by bit because it's in Italian. Listen to this. Amanda Ungaro's statements have shaken the White House.
Queste dichiarazioni di Amanda Ungaro hanno fatto tremare la Casa Bianca. Finora però di questo patto non
Until now, however, there was no proof of this deal.
c'erano prove, ma Report è riuscito a trovarle. Tutto
But my report has managed to find it, and it dates all the way back to 2016.
risale al 2016, quando il tabloid britannico Daily Mail aveva pubblicato un'inchiesta
When Daily Mail had published an investigation into Melania Trump's past.
sul passato di Melania Trump, accusandola senza prove di aver lavorato
Accusing her without evidence of having worked as an escort.
come escort. Melania Trump ottenne la rimozione dell'articolo.
Melania Trump obtained removal of the article and a multi-million-dollar settlement. Why?
E un risarcimento milionario, anche grazie alle dichiarazioni.
Also, thanks to Zampali's public statements. So this is Paolo. Paolo Zampali, for those who are not aware, is part of the Trump administration. But he goes way back. We'll show you some things about Paolo.
Azioni pubbliche di Zampolli.
I wrote a paper for the press, and the First Lady used what I wrote in her speech and stuff like this. With the Daily, they just win a huge case, I cannot talk about it because I have a confidentiality and I need to get the check. We just won it last week. And I'm in this country because of President Trump.
Yes, that's important. Paolo Zampali is in the United States because of President Trump. Now, that was before Trump was president. He gave him a job. That's how Paolo came here. Whitney Webb did an amazing expose about this months ago about Paolo Zampali and Melania. We'll get into a little bit of that as well. So just follow the pattern here.
The check, we just won it last week. And I'm in this country because of President Trump. Job. I started real estate. I built a beautiful house. Trade a friend.
He was in real estate, said he would never betray a friend.
In questa telefonata di cui siamo
in this phone call that we have
in
obtained,
possesso, effettuata nel 2017, Zampolli parlando con un
made in 2017, Zampali, speaking with one of his contacts linked to the United Nations. See how deep this goes?
suo contatto legato alle Nazioni Unite, rivela che Melania Trump
reveals that Melania Trump would have
gli
guaranteed
avrebbe
him,
garantito una protezione in cambio della sua
said that Melania Trump would have guaranteed him protection in exchange for his defense in deflecting
difesa nell'allontanare
the possible shadows over her past. So more cover-up information here. So it's kind of one of those things. It's like, I scratched your back, you scratch my back. I brought you into the country, set you up with a job in real estate. Now it's time for you to scratch my back, Paolo. I need you to cover up some information about Melania's past. Now, people were talking about this when Trump ran for president the very first time. They were talking about Melania's past. People were alleging back then that she may have worked for an escort. But I guess everybody, maybe people weren't ready for it back then. But now, because of the Epstein files and everything that's come out, the little bit that's come out, because there's so much more that we'll never know about, now people are starting to ask more questions.
Possibili ombre sul suo passato. Quest'audio che tutti
This audio, which everyone was
stanno
looking for,
cercando, Report può svelarlo in esclusiva.
can reveal exclusively. So this is Paolo again.
Donald Trump knows. He threatened his friend Paolo, which they consider his family, and his wife is not a prostitute. Maybe she has not the most fluent American accent. Maybe she poses naked like many models, but she's a good girl, okay? So you don't want nobody call your fucking wife a prostitute when she's the mother of your kid. And Melania told me, Paolo, don't worry, you have our back. Everything that happened, we protect, okay? Then 2 weeks later, they won the election, and that's it.
Oh, no. 2 weeks later, they won the election, and that was it?
Nobody call your fucking wife a prostitute when she's the mother of your kid. And Melania told me, Paolo, don't worry, you have our back. Everything that happened, we protect, okay? Then 2 weeks later, they won the election, and that's it.
Dopo la vittoria di Trump alle elezioni,
After Trump's victory in the elections,
la coppia presidenziale
the presidential couple kept their word.
ha mantenuto la parola data. Zampolli è entrato nel cerchio
He entered Trump's inner circle,
magico di Donald Trump, fino a ricevere un incarico
going as far as to receive a position of the highest
di
trust,
altissima fiducia, paragonabile a quelli riservati ai familiari più
comparable to those reserved for the president's closest family
stretti
members.
del presidente.
Blackmail in real time. So here's the thing. Paolo Zampolli knows a lot about Melania's past because he knew Melania before she was dating Donald Trump. And the whole idea here is, okay, Paolo, don't say anything to anyone about Melania's past, and we'll give you a position within the presidency, within the Trump administration. And they did. And now he's not supposed to say anything. But you got this leaked audio. And it goes deeper than that. So this is an investigative journalist from Italy who uncovered that. Now, let's go back to Amanda for a second. Amanda Ungaro, she was Paolo Zampolli's wife. Now, unfortunately, they do not have an English translation for this. So all I can do with this is just read this text here. Paolo Zampolli and the $250,000 hidden in the basement wall. The theatrical reaction of Donald Trump's special envoy. Unfortunately, with this,
C'erano un sacco di cose di cui mi teneva all'oscuro.
see, it's
Una volta un suo collaboratore mi rivelò che c'erano $250.000 nascosti
yeah, it's all Italian, unfortunately, but $250,000 hidden in a basement wall. Now let's go back to that investigation from Whitney Webb. Whitney Webb told us a while back she was putting all the pieces together here. There's Paolo right there. There's over here towards the right. Here is Melania, Trump, Paolo, and Amanda Ungaro. Now, when we go to Melania's name, it's just easier to do it this way. We'll go down. This is important. This is the part I want you to see about, right? This is where David Copperfield also comes in. Even though Casablancas had been the apparent impetus for Zampolli's move to New York, Zampolli didn't work at Elite Models once he was in the US. Instead, he became co-president of Metropolitan Models after purchasing the agency soon after making the move. Metropolitan Models was most famous for Claudia Schiffer. For those who remember the modeling, the supermodel era, Claudia Schiffer became engaged to magician David Copperfield while she was with that agency. Copperfield is a friend of Zampolli's, and was also close to Jeffrey Epstein. Evidence shows the two were in close contact in the early 2000s, and Copperfield has also been named by at least 2 Epstein victims who say they were present for Epstein's meetings with Copperfield. Copperfield also, in no relation to Epstein case, had been accused of sexual misconduct by at least a dozen women, 3 of whom said they were drugged by the well-known magician. This part right here, Copperfield was later a member of a 4-person dinner party that included Donald Trump, Melania Trump, and Zimpali, which Trump offered Zimpali a job at the Trump organization. Let's go to the next part here. Let's go to the next one here. In addition to Zimpali's claim that his agency finds its models in Brazil is worth examining, elsewhere Zimpali has suggested that many of the models he recruited from Brazil were teens, which is unsurprising given his emulation of John Casablancas. In one article where Zimpali was, questioned about his most famous former model, current First Lady Melania Trump, he stated that she was mature. She was 24 years old, not like those 14-year-old models from the middle of Brazil. There is also the fact that Zimpali's wife, Amanda Ungaro, a Brazilian model who he married when she was 19, appears on the Epstein flight logs in the company of Jean-Luc Brunel when she was a minor. The point is this: Paulo Zimpali knew Melania Trump way before Melania Trump knew Donald Trump. And it is believed that it was either him or Jeffrey Epstein who introduced Melania to Trump. The point is, if Melania was indeed an escort, which it seems like it's allegedly heading down that road, he would have known about that. And that's why they gave this guy a position in the Trump administration. And that is why he was supposed to keep his mouth shut about it. And here's where the mess up came in. Where he messed up was when he got his own wife deported and she threatened to spill the beans. Amanda Ungaro. Let's go to the next part here. This part's important. For instance, in addition to his ties to Trump, Briatore and other Epstein pals of the period, Zimpali was close figures that took infamous flights on Epstein's plane, like billionaire Ron Burkle, former President Bill Clinton, and longtime Clinton advisor Doug Band. Per Zimpali, he first met Hillary Clinton at Trump's wedding to Melania after being introduced to her longtime aide, Huma Abedin. So Zimpali also knew the Clintons. Did I say married? I'm sorry. Did I say married? Right. They were not married. She is married now. Thank you, Myra. So Paulo Zimpali was also friends with Hillary and Bill too. That's why I said all these people are in the same circles. Now, they may have different political views, but they got the same kind of money. And this is what Whitney Webb was trying to warn people about. So this article was published. Let me go all the way back up here. It's a long article. We covered this, I want to say last year when we covered this. Eric would know. This article was written by Whitney Webb and Mark Goodwin, and this was published August 26th of 2025. So yeah, we covered this last year. Paulo Zimpali and Amanda Ungaro and all the girls. So Melania does have a past. Everybody has a past. But the point is, they basically bribed, got to say allegedly, they basically allegedly bribed Paulo Zimpali to keep his mouth shut about whether or not she was an escort or whatever it was that she was doing over there in Europe. And they bribed him with a job here in the US. And not just a job, but also more power. I told you guys a long time ago, Donald Trump worked in real estate in New York City during the 70s. We're talking about a time when the mob was infiltrated in construction. Back during that time, it was hard for people to even get like permits, like building permits and things like that. It's like you had to go through the mob. I don't think that started with him. I think it started with his dad. What I'm saying is he was always in those circles. And this whole idea here is that Paulo was supposed to protect Melania's secret. And in exchange for that, they will basically give him a position in the Trump administration, bring him to the United States, and let him live the so-called American dream. This is blackmail. This is corruption. But they up here talking about all these other damn criminals. And see, this is why I tell you, with that whole shooting, the shooting that happened at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, every time more information comes out about Donald Trump, especially if it's some type of connection that's related to Epstein, something crazy happens. Whether it's a shooting or I'm just going to go start a war with Iran. These things are all distractions, and it's to get you to take your focus off of all this stuff with Epstein and Donald Trump's corruption. Donald Trump knew this information was out there. He has known for years. But he's also bribed people like Paulo. And so now it's all coming out. So you guys can follow. I want to show you again that account that you can follow on X right here. It's at report RAI3. They are the ones that broke this story. Now, what should people do? There should be demands to call Paulos and Pauly to be removed. Paulos and Pauly should have to step down. Trump should have to step down. These people are corrupt. And they got the nerve to sit up there and be like, Christian this and Christian that. No, these people are corrupt. These people aren't Christians. They're not real Christians. They're fakes. And hopefully more people are starting to see that. For those of us over here, we know better. Let's get to some of the comments, ladies and gents. Eric, if we can go to part 2. Thank you. Thank you for the super chat. Sparky, I had an old globe when I was a kid, and instead of separate countries, the whole area was called French West Africa. Interesting. Sandra said they scratch one another's backs. Yes, they do. And Starman said, I'm glad I'm not in their club. Same. Absolutely same. Yeah. Corrupt beyond fixing. Corrupt. They're corrupt. A lot of corruption. All right. Okay, ladies and gents, let's keep it moving and grooving. Let's get to this crazy ass story. So I covered the story about the shooting at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. I already posted that video, and I talked a little bit about the suspect in that one. But since I posted that video earlier Sunday morning, more information has been revealed, and it's getting crazy out in these streets. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, ain't no way. There's no way. No way. First of all, when they detained this guy, the video that we saw showed the guy running right past security. It showed them trying to shoot him, but none of them were able to land a shot, apparently. But it also showed that he had on clothes. When he is pictured handcuffed on the ground, all of a sudden he has on no clothes. Now, they're going to explain on CNN what they believed happened there, but I'm going to call bullshit. Let's go ahead and get into it. And then I'm going to tell you something else. There is another person that is linked to this guy in a more mysterious way. Let's get into it.
More on the suspect now. Three sources tell CNN that authorities have identified this man as Cole Thomas Allen, 31 years old, from California. The D.C. police chief said the suspect appeared to be a lone actor, was believed to be staying at the Washington Hilton where this dinner was happening. CNN's Brian Todd has more on the suspect and what we've learned this morning about the Secret Service agent who was shot during the attack.
We have new information just in from the U.S. Secret Service regarding the Secret Service officer who was shot in the shooting at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Anthony Guglielmi, the chief of communications for the Secret Service, telling CNN that the officer in question has been released from the hospital and, quote, the ballistic vest helped us avoid a potential tragedy. That is according to Anthony Guglielmi, chief of communications for the U.S. Secret Service. That officer released from the hospital. Anthony Guglielmi declining to name the officer or the hospital where he was treated, but the officer has been released, according to the Secret Service. Some other information we're getting, according to sources who spoke to CNN, the suspect is identified as Cole Thomas Allen, 31 years old, from Torrance, California. Now, according to the interim Washington Metropolitan D.C. Police Chief Jeffrey Carroll, he said that the suspect was armed with a shotgun, a handgun, and multiple knives in this exchange. Chief Carroll saying that the suspect and law enforcement officers did exchange gunfire, and the chief saying that they believe that the suspect may have been a guest at the Washington Hilton Hotel, the same hotel where this incident occurred.
Pause. They believe he may have been a guest. Shouldn't they have known that by now? That's quick, easy information to check right with the front desk at the hotel. So let me talk about something for a second, folks, okay? One of the things that I mentioned in the earlier video was that the security at this event was very lax, and that in itself was very questionable. You have a White House correspondent dinner that the president is going to be there. Security was lax. Simone Sanders said she was able to walk right in with no ticket, no ID, and she said that it had never been that way before these other events. Two, it was very strange to me that Donald Trump had never attended a White House correspondents' dinner as president. Now, he has attended them before as a guest, 2011, I believe, and also 2015. But this is the first time he attended the White House Correspondents' Dinner as president of the United States. And a shooting just happens to happen, right? Okay. Put all these things together. Okay. This guy just managed to somehow walk right through. He made it close enough. Walk right through with a shotgun, a handgun. Then they tried to say, well, he assembled the gun together inside there. Just like they said Tyler Robinson also assembled the gun together. And I thought it was really weird that all of a sudden we got this video footage very quickly of him running right past security. But they still haven't given you the video footage of Tyler Robinson supposedly shooting Charlie Kirk. Make it make sense. Now wait till we get to the part about his clothes, okay?
The chief saying that they secured a room there and are trying to determine the contents of that room, so that will provide some critical information. Now, according to the U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C., Jeanine Pirro, the suspect faces 2 charges at least. One of them is using a firearm during a crime of violence. The other is assault on a federal officer using a dangerous weapon. And some quick information on this alleged suspect's background. According to public records that CNN was able to sift through, he worked as a teacher and a video game developer. According to a LinkedIn profile matching his name and photograph, it described him as a part-time teacher at C2 Education. That is a test prep and tutoring company. CNN has reached out to C2 for comment. We have not heard back from them. C2, according to its records, did name Allen as the company's, quote, Teacher of the Month in December of 2024. According to a LinkedIn profile, Allen graduated from the California Institute of Technology in 2017, with a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering. He received a master's degree in computer science from Cal State University at Dominguez Hills last year in 2025. According to Federal Election Commission records, he donated $25 to Kamala Harris's presidential campaign in 2024. And he described himself in his LinkedIn profile as a video game developer. He appears to have published at least one game, an indie game called Boredom, for sale on the Steam gaming platforms.
Pause. Let me point something out to you. You notice how many times he said he was a video game developer? So let me tell you guys what I think is going on here, okay? Remember, they were trying to implement more censorship on like Discord, which is a big video game platform, right? They have been using this framing saying that these wild radical leftists, this is what they do. They just want to implement violence, etc. I think what they're trying to do with this guy in particular, I think they're trying to go in the direction of having this narrative to tell you that he was a video game developer and he was probably making or playing violent video games, because they're trying to tie all this in together because they want to increase censorship and they want to increase surveillance on the American people. And all these people just seem to have similar things in common. Tyler Robinson Discord, allegedly. I still don't believe the Tyler Robinson Discord thing. That didn't make any sense to me. This guy, video game developer, he just happened to be from California. So they're going to be able to say this guy came all the way from across the country to try to kill the president of the United States. Does that sound familiar to you? Remember the shooting that happened in DC about a little over a year ago, where there was the guy who they said was once a part of the Party of Socialism and Liberation. And they said he drove all the way across the country and he shot the couple that were, they were Christian, but they were pro-Israel Christian activists, and he shot them when they were coming out of that. Okay, you guys see, like, you see the same things here. Remember the National Guard that was shot in DC, and they said the guy that shot the woman's partner, they said he drove from across the country. They're trying to implement this narrative that it's the radical wild leftists that are coming from across the country and they're willing to take anybody out. And if people fall for this and believe this, then they will succeed at dividing us all. Because what has happened, what has changed in the past couple of years is that both people on the left and the right have been criticizing Israel and said, no, we do not support Israel. Donald Trump right now has the lowest approval rating ever in his presidential career. Ever. The Republicans are on board to lose in the midterms. I mean, I don't know how many signs. Israel has a historically unfavorable rating among Americans in the United States right now. They can't have it. They got to get these big name podcasters back on their side. Young Republicans are turning against Israel. So notice what he said over and over again. Video game developer, video game developer. Ay, ay, ay.
So a little bit more of the background of this alleged suspect, Cole Thomas Allen.
Let's bring in now retired FBI Supervisory Special Agent Jason Pack. Jason, hello to you. We've not heard anything yet about whether Allen is cooperating with investigators, but the FBI has searched a home linked to this suspect.
It's important.
We got to get to this part.
Because they'll take those pieces of information and match that up with some of those charges that the United States Attorney announced last night.
Yeah. You mentioned the potential for a manifesto. And listen, we've covered so many of these that often we find a manifesto online. Now, let's go through what we know about this suspect. This is someone who came to this event, according to law enforcement, was a guest at the hotel, had this long gun, had a pistol, a handgun, several knives, and picked not only an event that the president was attending, but also literally the most well-known names and most influential people in media. Is this the type of suspect who would want the world to know why he's doing this, considering the event he picked?
Yeah, I think that's a fair question and just shows you the level of preparedness and premeditation. You just don't wake up and decide to go to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. As you know, you have to plan that a lot. So it required a lot of pre-planning, a lot of thinking, probably a lot of research. And the fact that he was able to travel from California, we think, all the way to Washington.
What I tell you, don't you guys keep hearing the same narrative? They traveled from all the way. Even with Tyler Robinson, they said, then he traveled across state lines.
Hotel rooms there are not cheap either. So doing the retrace of the financials to how he got there, who he may have spoken with, and all the people he may have interacted with. They're pulling the hotel video to be able to see where he's come and gone there while he was at the hotel.
Let's get to the part about the clothes. Here we go right here.
Allen on the floor face down. Yes, this picture. I've covered many of these after which the shooter has been apprehended. And it appears he's obviously shirtless. I don't know what else he has on, but he's covered by a Mylar blanket. Is it protocol to take the suspect's clothes off? I've never seen this. Explain why we're seeing this, him in this condition.
Well, they probably were looking for explosives or something. So when you detain a person, you do what's called a high-risk search to make sure there are no weapons in the waistband, those types of things. And then you do a full search on that. So this appears to be some sort of full search. It does look like that blanket on top of him there. So they wanted to make sure there were no other threats. Did he have any explosives tied to him? Those types of things. When somebody is charging at you with a shotgun, you don't take any chances with that. So you want to make 100% sure that there's no other threats.
Speaking of other.
So how many times have you ever seen this happen? How many times have you ever seen this happen? I don't remember them doing this to, what's his name? Was it Timothy McVeigh? I don't remember them doing this to Timothy McVeigh. Do you remember them stripping Dylan Roof? No. I don't think this is normal protocol. But that's not even the craziest part about all this, okay? Check this out. According to a Fox News reporter, the shooter's manifesto said he wanted to target Trump administration officials. Investigators also found extensive anti-Trump and anti-Christian rhetoric across his social media accounts. See where I'm going with this? According to reports, Allen's brother alerted New London Police Department after receiving the alleged manifesto before the incident. So he sent the manifesto to his brother before this, allegedly. U.S. Secret Service and Montgomery County Police Department later interviewed Allen's sister, Avriana Allen, at the family home in Rockville. Key points from the interview. She said her brother often made radical statements and spoke about doing something to fix today's world. Here we go. Pay attention to vocabulary. Radical. She confirmed he brought 2 handguns and a shotgun from Cap Tactical Firearms and stored them at their parents' home without their knowledge. He regularly trained with those firearms at shooting ranges. He reportedly was linked to a group called the Wide Awakes. Pay attention. Radical, Wide Awakes. This is the organization. He also attended a No Kings protest in California. Does everybody get the narrative that they are trying to form? Here was this radical, gun-toting leftist who went to this anti-Trump protest, and he was a part of this radical leftist group. And I told you guys before, the Trump administration is looking to find ways to basically clap down on the pro-Palestinian groups. Any of these left organizations like Code Pink or Party for Socialism and Liberation, they're looking to clamp down on anti-capitalist, anti-war organizations. That's why I told you to pay attention to the vocabulary. So we just happen to meet all those marks. 2, according to them, he sent the manifesto to his brother before he went there. If someone was dead set on accomplishing their mission, why would they send their manifesto to a relative that could give them away before they even had the chance to finish the job? Tell me. Doesn't make any sense, does it? Part of the manifesto here, I'm not going to read all this. It is kind of, it's sus as hell. But it says, hello, everybody. So I may have given a lot of people surprise today. Let me start off by apologizing to everyone whose trust I abused. I apologize to my parents for saying I had an interview without specifying it was for most wanted. I apologize to my colleagues and students for saying I had a personal emergency. By the time anyone reads this, I probably most certainly do need to go to the ER, but can hardly call that not a self-inflicted status. I apologize to all the people I traveled next to. Like, guys, I apologize to everyone who abused and or murdered before this, to all those who suffered before I was able to attempt this. And then there's this part. I'm a citizen of the United States of America. What my representatives do reflects on me. And I am no longer willing to permit a pedophile, rapist, and traitor to coat my hands with his crimes. So this goes back to the Epstein thing, right? Let's go to this part. Secret Service, they are targets only if necessary. Hotel security, not targets if at all possible. Capitol Police, same as hotel security. National Guard, same as hotel security. And hotel employees, not targets at all. Objection 1, as a Christian, you should turn the other cheek. Rebuttal, turning the other cheek is for when you yourself are oppressed. I'm not the person, sexually assaulted in a detention camp. I'm not the fisherman executed without trial. I'm not a school kid blown up or a child starved or a teenage girl abused by many criminals in this organization. So you see what I notice here? The detention camp, obviously talking about Gaza. This is not a convenient time for you to do this. Rebuttal, I need whoever thinks this way to take a couple minutes and realize the world isn't about them. Guys, again, who sends all this to their relative? Objection 5, yield unto Caesar what is Caesar's. The United States, this is rebuttal. The U.S. are ruled by law and not any one or several people. So guys, again, it seems convenient, doesn't it? Seems convenient. But very weird to me that you would send that to someone before you did what you were planning to do, knowing they could turn you in. And you would not accomplish that. That was very strange to me. I connect this to this. I showed this in a previous video, but this is one of the things that people need to pay attention to. There were documents and photos linking the U.S. President Trump to Jeffrey Epstein projected onto the Washington Hilton. This was before the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And when I show you this, the question you need to ask, this was right before the Correspondents' Dinner. Why wasn't security more strict? Right? All right. Listen.
Dear President Trump, this building is the Washington Hilton Hotel. You'll soon be arriving here as the guest of honor at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. But the fact is, you, the President of the United States, are right now engaged in a massive cover-up of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. To date, your administration has only released about half the Epstein files. Of those that have been published, hundreds of pages have been blacked out entirely, and the names of many powerful men have been redacted, including, in some cases, your own name. Where you have been named, the files are damning. In one email from 2011, Epstein wrote to his accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, expressing surprise that you hadn't yet been publicly accused of complicity in his activities. Epstein emailed Maxwell saying, "I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump." Maxwell replied saying, "I've been thinking about that." In an email from Epstein to author Michael Wolff, Epstein said of you, President Trump, quote, "Of course he knew about the girls." You recently admitted on Air Force One that you were aware young women were being recruited from Mar-a-Lago by Epstein. When you were asked whether one of them was the well-known Epstein victim, Virginia Roberts Giuffre, you replied,
I think she worked at the spa. I think so. I think that was one of the people. Yeah. He stole her.
2 years after Virginia was recruited from your club, you told New York Magazine that you thought Epstein was a terrific guy. You said, quote, "He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side." One release file shows you flew on Epstein's private jet, dubbed the Lolita Express, at least 8 times. Then you lied about it, like you've lied about so many aspects of your relationship with Epstein. The fact is, Mr. President, you knew. Release the files, end the cover-up, now.
Now, this was projected onto that hotel again before the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and yet they did not have increased security. Again, it was Donald Trump's very first time attending the White House Correspondent Dinner as president of the United States, and a shooting just happens to, happen. But here's the craziest part of all. This connection with Cole Allen and Henry Martinez. And people, I'm telling you, the best investigators are the people, not the Cash Patel. Like, not the FBI, the best investigators are the everyday people. Power to the People said there's some really weird stuff going on with this stage shooting. The shooter's name is Cole Allen. He uploaded a photo wearing an IDF t-shirt to Instagram prior to the shooting, and Google searches for his name trended in Israel prior to the shooting. Now it gets even weirder. I'll debunk that IDF t-shirt in just a second because I'll show you where that came from. A man by the name of Henry Martinez made a single post on X in 2023 that read Cole Allen. And it looks like they knew each other, as both Cole Allen and Henry Martinez interned at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in 2014. There is no logical way to explain how Henry Martinez would know all the way back in 2023 that Cole Allen would do this in 2026 unless time travel is real, and this is Henry's way of hinting to us that it's real. So let me show you what he's referring to here, because first of all, this picture here with the IDF shirt, I'm going to debunk that. That picture has already been called out as AI. There are also pictures of him wearing a different shirt in the same picture. So we got to be very careful. There's a lot of AI images on Twitter. One thing to pay attention to, if someone says this is from that person's Instagram account and they just have the photo, but they didn't actually capture a screenshot from Instagram that shows that account posted it, I don't trust it. Right? So you got to be careful. That's why I said there's a lot of people out there just posting stuff and, they don't know. We'll get to Henry Martinez, though, because this is some real shit. Henry Martinez, this account on X posted Cole Allen. That date is December 21st, 2023. It had 2 million views. Now, more people have gone back to look at it today, so the view count is increasing. So keep that in mind, okay? I'm going to get to that count a little bit more in just a second. Why is this important? Henry Martinez, everybody pay attention. If you look up this document number, and I'm going to show you this document number, it is a conference paper. One of the authors is Henry Martinez. Lockheed Martin Space Systems, Denver, Colorado, United States. I'll show you the close-up in just a second of the actual document. Why does that matter? Cole Allen was also a summer undergraduate research fellowship student at NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Kid you not. In fact, if you go to this, here's that same document number. Ends in 4067. We'll go back to show you. 4067 at the top. You can always search up these conference papers, by the way. Testing Orion's fairing separation system. Here's the document number of this conference paper. Henry Martinez. Here are the authors. Henry Martinez, Lockheed Martin Space Systems Company, Denver, Colorado, United States. I don't know who these other people are. The publication date is May 1st, 2014. Cole Allen's fellowship for NASA was 2014. If you look at the top, this is obviously a NASA event. The acquisition source is Goddard Space Flight Center. So let me explain something here. So I used to advise like some of the PhD students in the sciences. And a lot of times these students, they may attend different universities, but they have these conferences that they go to and they present these conference papers, right? So it builds up to like your dissertation. Some of the master's students do it too, but these are the things that you do building up to that point. And you get to meet other students from other schools working on similar projects or maybe in the same, science field as you. Okay. Henry Martinez, Lockheed Martin, conference paper. Here's the publication if you want to look at it as well. It is the 42nd Aerospace Mechanism Symposium. Mechanical engineering. Cole Allen was also mechanical engineering. When we look at Cole Allen's background here we go. If you start at the bottom, again, he graduated from Caltech. That's one of the top engineering schools in the country, by the way. And here's that fellowship, NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory, 2014. What happened at that conference? What happened at that conference between Cole and Henry Martinez? Did they talk to each other? Is that the same Henry Martinez? I'm going to show you something else in a second. I find it to be very strange. Very strange. Software developer, teacher, mechanical engineer. Let's get to Henry Martinez. This is where you might need some popcorn for this one. This shit is wild. Here's that account. Henry Martinez. You click on the picture. It is that Pepe frog holding a champagne glass, wearing a tuxedo. At the White House Correspondents' Dinner, all the people sitting at the administration table, especially Donald Trump, there's champagne glasses, wearing tuxedo. But it gets crazier than that. Again, we're just walking through this together, guys. I don't even know, but it's some weird shit going on. Here's that post on the account. It was posted December 21st, 2023. Cole Allen. That's it. That's all the post says. I don't see any other post on this page. None. None. This account is following no one, but it has 15.1K followers. The number continues to increase since this person has been called out. Here's something else suspicious I want to show you about this account. X made some changes that when you click on the join date, it will show you where this account is located. But for this account, for Henry Martinez, when you click on the joined date, let's go back a little bit more, okay? When you click on join December 2023, the only thing that you see here is the date they joined and connected via web. Let me show you a difference. I'll come back to that one. Whose account do we have open here? All right, let's go to this one. At the SCIF, joined July 2024. Account based in the United States. You see, this was a new feature that X added, and we covered this last year, and we found out that some of the Israel accounts or some of the so-called US accounts were actually based in Tel Aviv. Right. So going back to Henry Martinez, it doesn't tell you where this account is based. Why would this account only have one post, and that post says Cole Allen in December 21st of 2023? People are responding to it now. How did he know? Who is this person? Now, many people will see this and they'll say it's just a coincidence, but I want to show you something else. Pay close attention to this picture, the banner picture that they used for this account. Let's go to the next part. MJ Truth says, do you believe in coincidence? Pepe Tux plus Trump Tux plus Wine Glass plus Cole Allen plus Time Machine. Do you believe in time travel? This is what he's pointing out here. So again, you can see all these things like kind of match, right? Here's the weird part though. That banner, that picture, the Pepe account that posted Cole Allen, the account's header, that background photo belongs to a website literally called Time Machine. Right here. The website is called Time Machine. Study on quality in 3D digitization of tangible cultural heritage. What is going on? And this could all just be a fluke, but the shit is weird. You see, people have really started looking up stuff. You click on the link here. There it is. Here's Time Machine. Let's go back to where we were here. Something else that's kind of weird. Where do you see what this picture people are saying it looks like? Here's the wild part. The original image even predates the Butler assassination attempt. That image was published October 28th, 2021. Butler assassination attempt occurred July 13th, 2024. To add in even more spice to the Butler connection, watch the video. Is that the same woman? So before we get to the video, let's look at the pictures. Here's that picture. And people are saying that if you look at this picture carefully, it looks like that picture. Now, I don't know, but if you start at the bottom, you can kind of see that could be the hand, that could be the head, or you could look at this and see something completely different. I don't know. But this is what people are pointing out. Now, let's go to the video that he was talking about, because he wants to know if this is the same woman that was in this picture in Butler, Pennsylvania. Here, let's see. Is that her? I don't know if that's the same person. Do you guys think that's the same woman? Kind of hard to tell, right? I'm not really sure. Are these people actors? Like, what is going on? Her right there? I don't know. I don't know. That may not be the same person. However, the Henry thing is weird. Now let's get to the IDF thing here. Guys, this picture is not real. So many of us, all you have to do is take the picture. You can insert it into an AI thing. It says that this image is 97% fake, right? And I want to show you another example because there's other pictures too of him wearing a different shirt in the same picture. This one right here. We'll come back to that one. Hold on. Oh, I think it's right here. See, this guy who posted this, where he deleted it because people pointed out this is not the same. So here's that same photo, and he's wearing a Pakistan shirt. Here's the photo. He's wearing IDF shirt. And here's that same photo, and he's wearing a Pakistan shirt. So this is why I was warning people about AI, that it would get to the point where you won't know what to believe. And this is what I was afraid of. And what I noticed is that the original account that posted that photo and said that he was wearing an IDF shirt, and I got it from his Instagram account, he never showed you the Instagram account. That was not a part of the screenshot. It was just this picture. So you got to be careful. Got to be careful. Now, I just want to remind you of something. Remember when I told you the world is a stage? Remember what Mossad agent said on 60 Minutes years ago? Listen.
How did you convince Hezbollah to buy this?
Well, obviously, they didn't know that they were buying it from Israel.
Who did they buy it from, or think they were buying it from?
We have an incredible array of possibilities of creating foreign companies that have no way being traced back to Israel. Shell companies over shell companies who affect the supply chain to our favor. We create a pretend world. We are a global production company. We write the screenplay. We're the directors. We're the producers. We're the main actors. The world is our stage.
I'm surprised that interview doesn't get as many retweets as it should. That was a Mossad agent saying that they write the script. The world is their stage. Here's the thing. What I want people to take away from this is we may never fully know the full truth. And part of that problem is that our government is not transparent. We don't have a transparent government. What we have are a bunch corrupt people within that government that are running cover for all types of crimes. The Epstein files show that. And unfortunately, that's not going to change unless we have a movement that does that. One way that you weed out the corruption is by getting big money out of electoral politics. That's one way. But Eric posted this for 11 demands. You guys, if you've been watching me for a long time, you hear us talk about 11 demands. Regardless of whether or not this recent incident was a false flag event, it should be investigated thoroughly. There should be transparency. Our Congress should do that investigation, but it is so corrupt and owned that it's hard to imagine that happening. But decorrupting our government and politics is the only way all this stuff gets better. We have to be clear about demanding it and coming together as a movement to make it happen. This is what 11 Demands and MCDS are about. So you can check this out at 11 Demands: money, corruption, demands, and solution. And that's the part I really want you guys to take away from this. None of this is going to change unless we have a movement that is big enough to get corruption out. And as much as people say, all we have to do is just elect people that are not taking big money. Yeah, that's a big part of it. But people are still corrupt. We have a corrupt government that is bought and paid for. It is owned by lobbies and lobby interest groups. And until that changes, we're less likely to see real transparency. Okay? So that's what I want people to take away from that. You really got to drive that home and tell it to your friends. That's why people get so frustrated and upset. It's like no matter who we elect, there's always some type of corruption because the government is owned and we don't own it. So let that sink in. But I ain't falling for this, man. I don't think a lot of you are either. This is very clear what's going on here. I think Donald Trump is also trying to find a way here to get some type of sympathy going into the midterms. But this is so obvious to me. Like I said, Americans deserve better psyops. They didn't even really try hard with this one. All right, let's go to the next part there. Eric, let's go to some of the comments here. Thank you. Carol says, don't you find that suspicious? Thank you, Trash Panda. WWE White House World Entertainment. Thank you, MTN. Evil is panicking and truth shines as truth shines. Psyops aplenty. Thanks, Miss Sparkle. I swear, Sabby, this is a bad to-be movie. Thank you, Yoki. I genuinely believe Larry Loomer is running Trump's social media account. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. Thank you, Measured Man. So everyone has a manifesto now? We have seen and heard it all before. Sounds like Tyler Robinson wording, etc. Create the problem, then solve it. Thank you, Will to Eat. That is the most professionally and well-drafted manifesto I've ever seen. This is written way too perfect for someone who's radical. My kids can stage a better performance than this. Thank you, Courtney. When this story broke last night, I was in line at the theaters. I couldn't hear the TV. But when I seen the image, I thought to myself, did they really stage a butt-naked assassin to shoot Trump? Isn't it crazy? Thank you, Kenman. Oh my God, the missing scientist. Thanks, Kevin. Rewatched your removed last night. Excellent work. Thank you. Thank you so much. So it's all out there, folks. They're trying all types of things. But again, remember, we know better. If you haven't done so, please do me a solid and smash that like button. Thank you. And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share just like a Care Bear. Let's keep it moving and grooving and let's get to this review. All right. 2 more stories left. I think I can do it in time. I wasn't going to talk about this until I actually saw the movie. And so I am going to explain to you why there seems to be a big disconnect between the movie critic review and the audience review of the Michael movie. So I want to break that down for everybody. No spoiler. I saw the Michael movie. Let's go ahead and put this up here. I saw the Michael movie. When I see movies, before I go to the movie theater, I look for 3 things: the director, the producer, and how long this movie is going to be. Okay, the movie length. What I noticed about this film before I went to see it is that it was directed by Antoine Fuqua, who did Training Day, and it was produced by Gary, I think it's Gary King. He's the same guy who produced Bohemian Rhapsody. I also saw that this movie was about 2 hours. So, given what I just told you, knowing that the same guy that produced Bohemian Rhapsody was producing this movie, I figured it would be similar in the sense that the focus would be more on the music, and this movie would function more like a tribute instead of a what's love got to do with it biopic. So if you're going to see this film and you're expecting to see a movie like What's Love Got to Do with It, which is the biopic about Tina Turner, where it goes very deep in her personal and private life, that is not this film. I wasn't expecting that because of who the producer was. So I kind of figured I knew what this was going to, it was going to be more like a tribute, similar to Bohemian Rhapsody, right? But what I gathered upon reading the critics' reviews is that they were not expecting that. The critics, who are gatekeepers in the movie space, they can be, they were expecting to see more about Michael Jackson's private life, which the movie gets into some of that, but not a lot of it, just like Bohemian Rhapsody. There were some things that were revealed that I was not aware of, but most of the things that they showed, I was aware of. There were moments where I felt it could have went a little bit deeper, but it didn't. And I think that's because of the time limit. And I'm going to get to what happened with the time limit as well. One thing I do have to tell you, you probably already heard this by now, but one thing I do have to tell you is in 2 hours, you're not going to cover Michael Jackson's entire life story. You're not. Just, so looking at the time length of the movie, I knew they weren't going to be able to cover everything. Michael Jackson's career started when he was a kid. It's different than when you're doing a biopic about even Queen, actually, when they did Bohemian Rhapsody. It's a little bit different because it's kind of hard to make a movie about Michael Jackson without starting with the Jackson 5, because that's when his musical career started. So you got to go all the way back through that. And then you can't really talk about the Jackson 5 without not talking about Joe Jackson. So they got to get into him a little bit too. So I knew they weren't going to show his entire story. So I wasn't disappointed. I actually enjoyed the movie. But I think if you're going into this film expecting to see everything up until like when he dies, you might be disappointed, right? So it was obvious to me that they were probably going to have to do this in 2 parts. That was what was real to me. So having said that, I wanted to get that out there because I want you to understand why the ratings are completely different if you compare it to the critic review and the audience review. First, I want you to hear what Michael Jackson's son said about the movie. He's in the movie very briefly, not like a major role, but he appears in it. Listen to this.
I think that my father is probably one of the most misunderstood people out there, and I hope that you get a glimpse into the life and the cause and effect that made him who he was. I know when I finished reading the script early on, for me, it felt like a culmination of who my dad was, because I had heard these stories growing up that he had told me himself or that other family members had shared with me. And to see it packaged in a way with it's like a beginning, middle, and end, it made me closer to the story in a way. Also, just having the benefit of reliving it with my cousin on production or in production on set was a really, honestly, a therapeutic experience, and one that I'm eternally grateful for. The first time that I saw him in person in his hair and makeup was really an emotional shock, because I had not seen my father in a long time, and to see him, Jafar just embodied him and brought him back in that moment. And it was difficult to maintain and keep composure because I really just wanted to give him a hug in that moment. But I had to tell him, like, Jafar, I'm proud of you. You're going to do great. But I need to take a little step outside.
Yeah, I do have to say something about this. I did not know going into this movie that this was Jafar's first acting role. I was very shocked to find that out after the fact. For those who are not aware, he wasn't just given that role. Apparently, like, he trained and prepared to audition for that role for 2 years before he even like went to audition for the role. Like, it wasn't just given to him because he's related to Michael Jackson. So like, watching it, there were parts that were kind of eerie to me for those of us that grew up as like big Michael Jackson fans, because I don't know about you guys, but Michael Jackson's music career spanned decades. My parents grew up with like the Jackson 5, right? And Michael Jackson. And then I grew up with Michael Jackson. And then my little sister grew up with Michael Jackson. It was like, because Michael kept making music. But I grew up with Michael Jackson, like the Bad album, you know, which was really big. And I remember like watching the music video for Man in the Mirror. People have to remember that Michael Jackson, a lot of people remember his songs that make you dance, but Michael Jackson had a lot of songs that touched on war, imperialism, hunger, poverty. You know, Man in the Mirror is probably one of the best examples of that. What About Us is another example of that, where you could tell he was against the wars, he was against imperialism, etc. And I think a lot of people forget that. Watching Jafar Jackson play Michael Jackson when it got into the version of Michael that I grew up with, like Bad and Remember the Time, like, you know, well, Bad, and I didn't grow up with Beat It, but we still watched like all the Beat It videos, like, you know, like Beat It, Thriller, all that. We saw all those videos, but I didn't grow up with it. But watching him turn into Michael Jackson with the Thriller album to Bad, that was eerie, because he moved just like Michael. And that the part was just kind of scary. Like, I was like, oh my God, like he has all the steps to Thriller down, like just like him. And so that was kind of eerie for me, even like the voice and all those types of things. So I would have never guessed that was his first acting gig at all. Despite the fact that critics did not like it, the audience members did. Michael rocked the world away with 97 million US and over 217 million plus. This is the opening weekend. For those who are not aware, I'm going to tell you who he beat. So this is a big one. Lionsgate Michael this morning is sliding in at 97 million domestic and over 217.4 million worldwide. Why is this significant? I'm going to tell you why it's significant. This biopic beat Straight Outta Compton. It beat Bohemian Rhapsody. And as of Sunday morning, it beat Oppenheimer for opening weekend. Now, I say that because the critics gave it a poor, horrible rating on Rotten Tomatoes. But it beat those movies. And people were saying, well, we'll see if it's worth it if it beats Straight Outta Compton, or if it beats, like, it beat all three of them. There were people all over the world dancing outside the movie theater, inside the movie theater. There were people in China, Japan, Paris, the UK, Los Angeles, Atlanta. There were people who didn't leave the movie afterwards. They were doing dance parties in the venue after. And I think what the critics did not seem to understand as well is that Michael Jackson was known all over the world. Michael Jackson was global. When I lived overseas in Germany, people loved Michael Jackson. Are you kidding me? And so, of course, they were going to come out to see this movie. So the bad reviews prior to the release date did not stop people from coming out to see the movie. There was one in particular, and this is Robbie Feld. For those who don't know, this is the creator of Deadpool. Here's what he said. The movie Michael ends in 1988. Before all the controversies start, it depicts and displays the meteoric rise of the king of pop. If you went to school the morning after Motown 25, you know how that felt. I was a sophomore and there were 100 kids moonwalking in the quad. MTV not playing his videos was a real thing. Thriller had a primetime premiere. My wife and I were surrounded by screaming fans. They stand, I think he means stand. They stand and screamed at the scene. Gen Z and Gen A are in the sway of this movie. Had a blast. We'll be seeing multiple times. That's the creator of Deadpool. Michael is now the #1 movie in the world. And I'm going to tell you a couple of things here. What one of the criticisms was. Actually, I'm going to tell you that first, and I'll come back to that one. So there were some changes, the 4-hour changes, right? So Antoine Fuqua, he got into some details about this here. It was widely reported that the film was originally 4 hours, which resulted in speculation over whether Michael would be split up into 2 parts. Now, Antoine Fuqua, he managed to get the movie's runtime down to a manageable 2 hours and 7 minutes. There were times when producer Graham King would call him in the middle of the night because he'd have a thought about something and you would have to go back into editing. So they would have to remove a lot of things. So one of the things that I want to say, and this came out after the critic review, there were a lot of things that were cut that they had to go back and remove. I guess they had to get it down to a time where people would actually sit in the movies for 2 hours versus making people sit there for 4 hours. I don't know. Again, Graham was the producer. And so because of that, where some of the frustration comes in from the critics. So here's a tiny spoiler because I said they don't go through the whole thing. You know that they stop at 1988. So that means they don't get into the scandals. They don't get into the sexual abuse allegations. And there were many critics that said that they felt the producers, they tried to whitewash Michael Jackson's life because they didn't include that. But what you found out later on is that apparently because of ongoing lawsuits against Michael Jackson's estate, there are certain things that they still can't even discuss in the biopic. And one of those things were the allegations. So, of course, like a lot of people did not know that going into the movie. Now, I'll tell you up front, and I've said this multiple times, I never believed Michael Jackson hurt those kids. I never believed that. And when you find out what the industry did to Michael Jackson, when you find out how they started coming after him when he wanted to buy his catalog, when you find out how they came after Michael Jackson when he wanted his masters, when he wanted ownership of his own songs, then it all starts to make sense. Mariah Carey, she can be a little cuckoo every now and then, but she was right what she said about Tommy Mottola. And Michael Jackson said the same thing. These people, they will really screw you. They're totally fine with you as long as you play their game. But the moment you come in and you're no longer an artist or a songwriter and you want ownership, they'll stab you in the back. They'll get you. Now, I still don't think Michael Jackson should have been having slumber party with kids. He shouldn't have been having them sleepovers with them kids. I said that back then, but that made him a perfect target. They said, oh, okay, we'll get the parents, families coming and wanting money, still suing Michael Jackson's estate for money. Then you had people like Wade Robson, who also said that he was a victim, came back years later and said he lied. This is the same guy who was a choreographer who said that Britney Spears cheated on Justin Timberlake with him too. Did he lie about that too? I don't know. A lot of this was for money. And they were really trying to take Michael Jackson down. And so Michael Jackson's revolt against Sony and criticizing and publicly criticizing Tommy Mottola, this was the industry's way of getting back at him. They said, oh, okay, we are going to take you for every dime you have. So people have to know the history of this. And that's one of the ways that they'll try to get people. Michael Jackson had a song called They Don't Really Care About Us. He had 2 music videos for that song. One was in Brazil. That's the most known one. Another one was with Michael Jackson in a prison. Spike Lee directed the video in Brazil. Michael tried to tell you back then that they don't care about us. They don't. Not the government, not the institutions, not the alphabet letter agencies. They don't. It's all about money. Michael Jackson, he taught you in the song Man in the Mirror. He said that if you want to make a change, you have to take a look at yourself. If you want to make the world a better place, you have to look at yourself and make that change. See, Michael Jackson even realized back then that we can't be having heroes. That change has to come from us. And a lot of times, like, people don't look at that. Michael Jackson was loved all over the world. Constantly gave to charities, constantly visited people who were sick, people who were poor. Michael Jackson, he was even so open, like he was willing to go approach Crips and Bloods and bring them together for a music video. Who was doing that? This was someone that really, truly admired everyone. And so you'll see that, again, Bohemian Rhapsody producer compares Freddie Mercury movie to his Michael Jackson biopic. It's the same guy. So that's the movie that you're getting. I'm just letting everybody know now if you haven't gone to see it. The other thing here, I told you about the allegations, right? They had to remove it. That's another thing they had to remove from the movie. Antoine Fuqua talks about that as well. It says that originally Graham and Antoine were set to make 10 million and 6 million respectively, but Fuqua was paid an additional 15 million and King an extra 10 million from Michael Jackson estate after the allegations needed to be cut out and several scenes reshot. And they paid them more because they had to do more work. And the reason why the scenes had to be cut out is because of Jordan Chandler situation here, right? So the first accuser was in 1993. They reached a settlement with the family, Jordan Chandler, but the reality is there's still an ongoing legal settlement for his estate. So that's why they had to remove it from the movie. Now, obviously, since I told you that they stop at 1988 and he originally wanted this to be 4 hours, there's obviously going to be another movie. Hopefully by the time they get to that, they'll be able to have some of the legal stuff cleared. I don't know. But to go into the theater thinking you're going to get Michael's whole entire life in 2 hours, which would also include that marriage to Lisa Marie Presley, You Are Not Alone, of course, the allegations, Michael Jackson's death and the doctor who killed him and all this stuff, there's no way you're getting all that and the Jackson 5 and Thriller in 2 hours. That was my take on that. What would I give it? I give it a 7. I'll tell you why I give it a 7. I don't give movies 10s anyway. I give it a 7 because there were some things I was surprised. Like LaToya Jackson's character is in the movie, but I didn't see Janet Jackson's character. It was kind of weird that LaToya was present, but Janet wasn't. I would expect it to have seen Janet at least. That to me was kind of weird. Diana Ross, her character is not in the movie at all. And that was also kind of weird because especially during that Jackson 5 time, Diana and Michael, they were friends. They were very close. And I'm assuming maybe Diana, Diana can be kind of moody. Diana Ross can be kind of shaky to where she be tripping. Like, I'm serious. She move in weird ways. We could do a whole show one day about Diana. What's that? Janet didn't want anything to do with the movie. Oh, okay. That makes sense. Okay. Okay. Gotcha. All right. I guess I have to bump it up to an 8. Yeah, that thing. So Janet didn't want anything to do with it. Okay. So that makes sense. But Diana Ross, she be moving kind of weird. So, she be turning on people and shit. So that's maybe probably why she wasn't there. Would I have liked to see a little bit more information about like Michael's personal life? Yeah, but I really didn't expect to see as much. I will say this part. I wish they would have been able to focus more on what happened with MTV. And I'm assuming maybe they couldn't, again, because of legal situations. I don't know. It's tough. Even making my documentary, it was tough. There's certain things I could not do without permission of said, group or license, so those types of things. But that would have been good to see. But here's what I want you to take away from the movie. And I think this guy hit the nail on the head right here. His name is Anish. Michael Jackson, and why no superstar will ever reach his height again. I just walked out of Michael, the new Antoine Fuqua biopic that hits theaters today, April 24th, 2026. The critics destroyed it, 27% on Rotten Tomatoes, when the embargo lifted, 38 on Metacritic. Headlines about it being sanitized and hollow. The audience saw a different film. The Rotten Tomatoes sits at 96%. Cinema score came in at A-. As of today, Rotten Tomatoes score for the audience is now 67%. Listen to what he said. I sat in the theater and watched Jafar Jackson channel his uncle so completely that for stretches of 2 and 3 minutes at a time, I forgot I was watching a recreation. He nailed the voice, the geometry, the strange weightless quality of how Michael moved across the stage as if gravity was something he had personally negotiated with. I can't wait for part 2. But the film is not really what this letter is about. I kept thinking about something that has been quietly true for 15 years and that we have not really sat with as a culture. The man being portrayed on that screen was the last of his kind. The conditions that produced Michael Jackson are gone. The economics, the technology, the family television, the monoculture, the MTV monopoly, the peak album era, the unbroken attention of the whole planet pointed at the same person at the same time, all of it gone. Whatever shows up next in pop music, whoever the biggest star of 2030 turns out to be, they will not get to be that. Not at that scale, not for that long, not in that singular way. Let me tell you what I mean about this here. He's 100% correct. I'm a millennial, but I grew up during a different time. When I was growing up, MTV still played music videos. Do they even do that anymore? I grew up watching world premiere music videos. I remember seeing the world premiere of Remember the Time. I remember seeing the world premiere of Scream. I remember seeing the world premiere of Black or White. Me and my cousins would all sit on the floor in my grandma's house and we would watch the world premieres together. That doesn't happen anymore. MTV rarely plays music videos. Is VH1 still a thing? I forget the other channel. I grew up with music videos being a global phenomenon. I grew up during a time where if a new album was released, me and my friends would rush to the store to get the CD. That doesn't happen anymore. I grew up standing in line, waiting to get tickets to go to a concert. That doesn't happen anymore. Everything is online. Video killed the radio star, and Spotify and Apple Tunes killed the video star. People can purchase concert tickets online. No other artist will ever be able to do what Michael Jackson did. It's a lot easy to sell on social media, but it's not the same. It's not the same feeling. There was something about being able to reach a lot of people just through the television or the radio station. And there was no social media. Michael Jackson sold all those albums before social media. And this is why I don't really rock with a lot of new music today, because I hear the music that comes out and I don't feel like there's a lot of effort put into it. Where all it takes is for an artist to trend on social media and they can sell millions of albums without even really trying to sound like shit, without putting in that effort to the lyrics. That is a totally different thing. Michael Jackson had people stopping in the streets. That's how powerful his music was. I grew up watching Michael Jackson concerts on TV, and people would faint the moment Michael Jackson appeared on the stage. They'd miss the whole concert. Now, there are positives about social media, but there's also negatives. And I feel like it kind of took away some of that interaction and connection that we had with each other. There was something about that. There was something about, calling your friend on the phone, not the cell phone, not texting them, picking up the phone and calling your friend and saying, this comes out this week. Want to go to the mall and go get it? There was something about having those music stores at the mall and listening to the CD before you actually bought it. There was something about that. So I'm not anti-technology, but I think we have to acknowledge what has happened here. That's why you won't see another Michael Jackson. You won't see it. People had to stop what they were doing when there was a world premiere video premiering at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night. People stopped what they were doing to watch the world premiere of Black or White. And then we went to school the next day and we talked to all our friends about it. Did you see the premiere? Everybody was like, Macaulay Culkin was in the video. That doesn't happen anymore. So there's something real about that. I give the movie, I guess I'm changing it to an 8 because people told me Janet didn't want to be in it. I give the movie about an 8. Like I said, I don't give out 10s. I still think some things, could be improved a little bit here and there. But I say go see it. Again, if you saw Bohemian Rhapsody, it's that same style of movie. If you're looking for like a What's Love Got to Do with It, go watch the Jackson 5 miniseries that came out years ago called The Jacksons and American Dream, because that goes deeper into that type of stuff. But I'll give it an 8. I give it an 8. All right. I guess we got a lot of millennials in the chat because people are like, I remember. Yes. I need to do a story about the industry plants. Yeah, that's right. People remember. People know. Yes, the mystique of the superstar is gone. They're all on social media. Right. There's nothing mysterious. I mean, I literally sat up there. I'm going to get to this last story. But I literally sat up there yesterday and watched everybody talk about Megan. What's the girl's name? Chris Thompson. Meg Thee Stallion. I saw everybody yesterday talking about the relationship breakup between Meg Thee Stallion and Chris Thompson, all on social media. And I'm just kind of like, again, like, there's no mystery anymore. There's no mystery. Everything's just out there. Crazy stuff, man. All right, let's get to the last story here. Donald Trump has been attacking Candace Owens and her friends for quite some time since they apparently turned on him. He considers them all to be traitors now, but I think what he did with this one is a real low blow, and he's getting a lot of pushback from people in his own party. First, let's take a look at some of the things that Candace has said about Donald Trump, just to give you an idea of why Trump might be flipping out.
You're going to infiltrate and convince us that this is the same party while we get gaslit about everything that's happening. Like I said, you lost the party. MAGA got fractured, not when Tucker Carlson interviewed Nick Fuentes, but when Donald Trump looked at us in our faces and said, Epstein who? That's when it was game over. Because Israel first is a cancer cell. It is a cancer cell, left or right, to everything and everyone that wants to play around with it. It is a radical psychosis that has manifested itself within both parties. And it is so radical that, in case you missed it, yesterday, they started attacking Brett Cooper. Brett Cooper, 23-year-old, bubbly Brett Cooper. She makes the majority of her videos dedicated to pop culture. Yes, she covers things that are, I would say, mainstream politics, nothing too daring, never speaks about Israel. And she did her part, by the way. Zionists wanted her to do her part and encouraged New Yorkers to get out and vote against Mamdani. But it's not enough, of course, because this is a radical ideology. You give them 100%. You even say one critique, and they don't want to break bread with you. They want to destroy you, and that's what they want to do to Brett Cooper.
Yeah, well, they definitely do want to destroy. So that was a clip there when Candace said that, no, it's not the same party anymore. It's been, taken over, like that type of thing, right? I want to show you something else that she said, because I just want to know if you think this is warranted. What Donald Trump did here. Here's another one.
On Fox News that set off his little spree of anger this time, but he wrote this on Truth Social. I'm on Air Force One, heading to Las Vegas and Arizona for greetings and speeches on no tax on tips, a windfall for our great American citizens. I am watching one of the least attractive and talented people on all of television, Jessica Tarlov. Her voice is so grating and terrible, I had to turn her off. Her Democrat sound bites are fake. She makes up poll numbers and nobody challenges her because she's so boring. I have among the best poll numbers I have ever had, and why shouldn't I? All the country does is win. CNN had me at 100% saying they never saw that before. Get her off air. She is bad for our country. I hear Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, and Candace Owens are dying fast. Their numbers are terrible. Nobody believes them anymore. They were fake MAGA. And now they've been exposed. President DJT. He's definitely not writing these. Just so you guys, this isn't even how he speaks. This is not how he speaks. So I don't know who has access to this feed, but it's not Trump. Okay. It's just not Trump. He had a second tweet as well, a follow-up where I think he called me mentally ill. He called me mentally ill.
So with Candace, she even went to tell people that that's not even how Donald Trump speaks, right? So she went a little bit further there than some others, and she's been around him enough to know. And then this was the part here when she basically said that he was a slave.
You will most certainly die a slave, okay? You are in chains right now, and the entire world can see that perfectly.
I've always liked him.
So let's get into what's going on here, right? So Candace has come after Donald Trump, and rightfully so, and multiple times on her podcast. Donald Trump decided that he was going to attack her, Tucker, Megyn, everybody who basically calls out his bullshit, right? Anybody who disagrees with him, along with Marjorie Taylor Greene as well, right? Okay. So here's my thing. Let me show you what he did. A lot of people are talking about this. Remember when I showed you this picture? Remember when Donald Trump shared this on Truth Social, and he didn't make the video, but someone on his team did, and it was the Obamas as monkeys. And I told you, as much, I have many disagreements with Barack Obama. I said he got many disagreements with him about that, especially when it comes to Flint, Michigan, etc. Many disagreements with Barack Obama. But there's a way that you go after someone for their policies, and then there's just racist bullshit, right? Okay. When I talked about this, I told you he's not doing that to the Obamas just because they're Democrats. And I said that anyone else who turns on Donald Trump or criticizes Donald Trump in any way, shape, or form, even if you're a part of your own party, he would do that shit to you too. Now, he didn't make Candace a gorilla, but let me show you what he did. This is the thing that a lot of people saw over the weekend, and they were like, what the hell is this? Look at this here. Donald Trump said Candace Owens' stock, which was never very high, has fallen a long way. Her attack on the First Lady of France is despicable. I believe in this case, without verification, she is an extremely low IQ individual. Now, this isn't an actual magazine cover. You can create fake magazine covers yourself, and that's apparently what has happened here. If you look at the magazine cover, it says Vile Person of the Year, Time Magazine, Vile Person of the Year. Now, this picture of Candace Owens, I don't know if everybody remembers this, but apparently I think this picture comes from when Candace had an allergic reaction. Does everybody remember this? When I think there's an issue with the landlord in Connecticut, and I think she had taken a picture of her face because there was some type of allergic reaction, something to do with the apartment complex or something like that. I don't know if everybody remembers this, right? But I believe, from what I understand, I think she took that picture herself. But Donald Trump, of all the pictures to post of her, he chose this one, and he did it intentionally. Like, obviously, it looks like there might be some swelling there. If you read the cover of the article, it says Candace Owens lies, 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 uses rich white men, 0% fact check ratio on all credible fact checking sites. Here's the big one: protects sex offenders. Let's go to the last one. How does Candace Owens protect sex offenders when she was calling for the release of the Epstein files and Donald Trump was trying to run cover for the Epstein files? You guys get me? But out of all the pictures to use, he chose that one. That's intentional. Now, let me tell you something else, because I warned people about this. The same way that he said those things about Black people in the Democratic Party, I told you, if you disagree with him, he will do the same to you. Because at the end of the day, Donald Trump hits below the belt. So Democrat, Republican, don't matter. At the end of the day, she's still Black. And that's what he sees. All these people that for years, and I've been warning people about this, all these people for years, Candace Owens defended, protected Donald Trump for years. She did. Same thing with Marjorie Taylor Greene. All of them, they defended Donald Trump left and right for years till all the Israel shit popped off. And this is how Donald Trump treats them. This is how Donald Trump, this is what I was trying to tell people. When you go outside of that lane, when you leave the flock, when you take a turn that they don't want you to take, this is how they treat you. Because this is what they always thought to begin with. They didn't start to feel this way yesterday. I said the same thing about Laura Loomer. That's how they always saw her. They're nice and they're good to you as long as you are doing what they want you to do. The moment you go against the narrative, the moment you move in a direction that they do not approve of, they will come after you too. All of them are showing their whole ass. Donald Trump, Laura Schumer, that guy with the weird peanut-shaped head over at the Charlie Kirk show, I forget his name, sits next to Andrew Covid. You saw his racism come out too towards her. He was doing racist attacks. What did I tell you guys? That's what they always thought. To them, she was a tool that they were willing to use because it helped their agenda. It helped their cause. This is why it is dangerous, and I cannot continue to say this enough. It is dangerous to make these statements as if, well, America isn't a racist country. We have no racism here. That is dangerous. I continue to tell people, yes, it is. And what they are doing is they are treating Candace Owens the same way that they treated and talked about the Black Democrats. Because she's not following the program. And that's how they always felt. Donald Trump didn't have to post anything, let alone he could have used any other picture. He chose that one. But I think it's backfiring. Because look at this. Something else that came out over the weekend. Every Black Republican is leaving the House, erasing diversity gains. All 4 Black House Republicans are retiring after this year, a reflection of the striking and persistent lack of diversity in GOP. Now listen to what they say right here. It's important. Here we go. All 4 Black Republicans in the House are leaving Congress next year. There goes the tokens. There goes the tokens. 3 are seeking statewide office and 1 is retiring because redistricting in his state effectively boxed him out of his seat. The exodus is a reflection of the striking and persistent lack of diversity in the GOP ranks of Congress, something that Mr. McCarthy has acknowledged is still an issue even years after efforts to address it. When you look at the Democrats, they actually look like America, he said shortly after leaving Congress in 2023. When I look at my party, we look like the most restrictive country club in America. They've been trying to recruit more Black candidates. But when you have this going on, I mean, it's like, what do you expect? What do you expect? People are clapping back at Donald Trump here. You can see some of the comments here. That's a good boy, Donald. What 250 million well spent looks like. Mariam Adelson. People are making jokes. It's all fun and games when, they like you, but it's not fun and games when they no longer do. This person here said, what changed? That's what happens when you don't play the game. You're better off. And I'll tell you guys, honestly, you're better off starting from the bottom, taking your time, and growing and getting there step by step than you are starting at the top with all the money and everything that comes with it, because they have a lot of money. The GOP, Turning Point USA, like they have a lot of money. And if you're black and you want to be like a commentator, or you want to, support the Republican Party, oh, there's a lot of money over there waiting for you. They see you as a tool. But I'm here to tell you, and especially in this space, you're better off starting off at the bottom and trying to grow the hard way like I did. You're better off doing it that way than doing it the quick way, because these people turn on you. Now, Candace has been able to, basically have her own podcast, independent, do her own thing over there, and she's doing just fine. But it doesn't work out that way for everybody. There are a number of people that have been put in a similar position, and the door was shut in their face, and they've never been able to get back to where they were before. So I think there's lessons to be learned here. And this is why I tell people, sometimes it's good just not to be a part of a pack of anything. Sometimes it's good to do your own thing, because these people, they're just like that. And it wasn't just Trump. You saw all of a sudden people that were a part of Turning Point USA that she used to work with, all of a sudden were using racist attacks against her. That's how they always were. They just made sure not to say it around her because she was helping their cause and their mission. But the moment that she was no longer doing that, now they saying it to her face instead of behind closed doors. Sorry, but that's the reality. So Trump is an ass for posting that and doing what he did. He's an asshole for doing that. But the question is, why does he feel so comfortable doing that? Think about it. All right. That is it for me tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Eric is going to close out the show.
All right. And yeah, Trump feels comfortable because he's at the top, right?
Mm-hmm.
And,
I got Michael Jackson song stuck in my head, man.
Yeah, which one?
I got that. Don't stop till you get enough.
Oh, that's an old one, eh?
That one easily gets stuck in my head. That's a timeless song.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good deal. All right. I just watched Bohemian Rhapsody finally last night. That was good stuff.
Oh, you just saw it. Okay, cool.
Finally, yeah. I don't watch.
Did you like it?
Yeah, it was good. They did kind of stray a little bit from the real facts a bit, but no, it was good stuff.
Yeah. Queen is another one of those groups, like, I feel like also had timeless music. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's real music. Like Queen, Michael Jackson, like nobody sounds like that today.
And just that story, just the story about how they blew up, like, and like all of a sudden they're playing to these massive stadium of crowds. It was wild.
Yeah, well, he does time jump. That's one thing I forgot to say. Graham King, he time jumps a lot. Yeah, he does it in the Michael movie too. He time jumps, and people are like, "What?" Yeah.
All right, good stuff. Yeah, I'll do a quick close up here. I'll let you get on with your Sunday, and we'll see what happens.
All right, guys, have a good night. Keep up the fight.
All right. You can catch Sabby next live on Tuesday. Should be our regular 7 p.m. show. Meanwhile, I'm going to just do a quick close up here. Not going to go on for too long, but there was, the story with the incident at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and Sabrina put up the 11 Demands chat that, the main thing is we're not going to know what the real deal is as long as our government is totally corrupt, and it's Congress, it's the agencies. So the reason why, that's just such a core part of 11 demands, and as PPR Firepower put up, the old MCDS, is that really all the fixes go through government. I know it's not always the easiest thing to hear or to talk about, but to describe as the path, but it is just simply what we need. And as long as we have a thoroughly corrupt government, nothing's really going to get better. We're still going to have wars. We're still going to have crappy health care. We're still going to not know whether we can believe the news and whether what's happening is a false flag or not. So we need to call out the corruption, and try and work on having that mass movement with those clear demands, with a strong focus on the corruption. It's politically, it's a winning argument because everybody knows and agrees that our government is ridiculously corrupt. So we all have a role to play. We can be working on that. You can check out more about that at the old 11demands.org, and we'll be talking more about that on this show and other places in the coming days. Now let's see what we got queued up in for the super chat. Some will go back. These first ones will go back to the earlier story with Shockwave Truths. Thanks for this one, saying not fooled. And thanks for this super chat from Mr. Marlon Wells, who says, yeah, another cover-up false flag, 10% believable. And thanks for this one from Marissa, who says, media fakery is bigger issue than most people know. Yeah, media is a big part of this, that you have the same corrupting forces and billionaires that essentially own our government right now. They own the media. It's fixing the media is a hard one to do directly. I think, again, the dots, it comes back to government. We need a government that breaks up big media, that reins it in, that establishes regulatory standards, and same for social media. So that's why, it comes down to, you got to get rid of that corruption. Thanks for the super chat, Kevin Wayne, who says, MJ, who is it? It's haunting, gripping, avant-garde pop. I hear you. Thanks for the super sticker, Sandra. And shout out to Molly C, who says, from the things I've seen and read, Michael bought other people's catalog and then gave it back to them. Don't forget, he bought the Beatles catalog. And thanks for this one, Wiz, who says, they came after Michael when he tried to produce Don't Cry Palestine. And thanks for this super chat from Mountain Star Studios. He says, I'm loving Sabby chatting about the music industry. Yeah, we like to, cover, Sabby covers a lot of things on this show. Keeps it interesting. Thanks for the super chat, DZ. He says, Jimi Hendrix, Sam Cooke, MJ, Prince, Whitney Houston, Bill Cosby. Whenever one of our people wants ownership of their art, character assassination and death seems to find them. I hear you. And thanks for this one, Martin Wells. Michael was the king of music, and he actually music royalty, and he was taken from us too soon. Everything he did was bigger than life for generations. And shout out to the Truth Lady, who says, Sabby Sabs, I think CK schooled CO about arranged marriages, and she may be wondering if her own marriage was arranged. And thanks for this one, Marlon Wells, who says, the Black Caucus can't be pro-Black, though, because of AIPAC. Yeah, and, it's the Black Caucus is a Democratic Party instrument, is what it comes down to. If they were real about what they were doing, they would separate from the corrupt uniparty and represent who they're supposed to represent, right? So it's up to us to demand that and make that a prerequisite for us supporting them, because they're supposed to work for us, right? Our representatives. And I think the last one we got here, thanks for the super chat from Bombarded with Yoke, I think is what that says. But thanks for the super chat. And they say, when a politician lies to the public and does not keep their promises, why can't they be sued class action for causing harm, i.e. deceit, misrepresentation, or fraud? It's an interesting tack. I think kind of the Congress, kind of the corrupt government. It's kind of, I'm dubious about if that kind of a legal tack will work. It's an interesting tool if there's a way to pursue it. I think we should certainly be all for it. I think our best tool is our votes. I know people are down on voting these days. I think it's important to distinguish. It's not about whether or not you vote. It's about who you vote for, what you vote for. So the challenge is to have those clear demands to get as many people with that program as much as possible, calling out the corruption and making that a prerequisite for the things we vote for and the things we support. I think it's possible. I think the key challenge is getting enough people involved. That's really the biggest thing we got to work on. So keep watching here, keep checking out 11 Demands, and subscribe to the 11 Demands Substack. You'll get a new post on there in your email box every once in a while. There's also 11 Demands on the Twitter X machine if you're out on there. And we'll keep at it and keep seeing, what we can do in this battle. And that's going to do us for today. Like I said, next live show will be Tuesday at 7 p.m. I want to thank everyone for watching and their good comments and chats and super chats. And until then, I'm going to leave it with our usual. Have a good night. Keep up the fight, and we'll see you all next time. Thanks, everyone, and peace.